I'm halfway through my month-long tarot workshop in which I'm studying the Mariel Tarot. And for those of you that are interested in keeping up with me and all of the information, I have it on my website. I posted on my blog, lilytarot.com, because I can't make videos on everything, but I will pull all the information on my blog for those of you that are looking for inspiration or ideas on how to do your own tarot workshop. Now, one of the ways that I like to study a tarot deck is I combine it with the book that I'm reading, which for this deck is called Women Who Run with the Wolves. But another way is I combine it with a film. Now, I chose Pan's Labyrinth as the movie to pair with the Mariel Tarot because as you're looking through the artwork, and I'll put images of the cards right here, you see that it's very rooted in fantasy, mythology. It's very raw and not afraid to be kind of confrontational in her artwork. Like even though she has fantasy elements and it's very beautiful and it's very rich in colors and vibrancy, there's like a rawness to the artwork that sometimes can make you feel just a little bit unsettled, but also deeply admire the beauty, the shape, the form, the spectrum of colors that she's added to this deck. So I wanted to pick a movie that captured that beauty, that artistic aesthetic, that element of fantasy and otherworldliness, but also something a little bit darker, something a little bit unsettling. And for me, that's the movie Pan's Labyrinth. Now, for those of you that haven't watched the movie, I am going to spoil. So Pan's Labyrinth came out in 2006. It is directed by Guillermo del Toro, and it is this dark fantasy film. Takes place in fascist Spain, and the main character is this young child named Ophelia, and she kind of is in a very tumultuous family situation, right? So her father is this very stern, very harsh military officer. Her mother is pregnant and struggling with her own, health problems. And this young girl is kind of neglected and she kind of has a lot of stress in her life. And so to escape the stressors of her life, she creates this fantasy world. She discovers this fantasy world. It's this mysterious labyrinth. So to escape the brutality of her world, she discovers this mysterious labyrinth. It's like a door to another realm. And inside she encounters this faun who tells her that if she completes these 3 tasks, that she'll become a princess and she'll have all of her dreams come true. And what I love about the story is the director doesn't tell you what's fantasy and what's reality. And we kind of just see the story from Ophelia's perspective. And there's lots of fantastic themes throughout the film, like innocence and disobedience and sacrifice and fear and monsters and the parallels between fascism and violence. It is a fantastic film. I can't even tell you how much I love it enough. But that is the film that I'm pairing with the Mariel Tarot for this deck study. Let's shuffle the cards and see what they have to say about Ophelia and Pan's Labyrinth. So as I'm shuffling, I'll just tell you a little bit about the spread that I'm going to be using today. So it starts off, the first card represents Ophelia, right? She's the main character in this film. It is her essence, how you would describe her. The second card is the big challenge that she experiences throughout the film. This could be any type of challenge, internal, external, however tarot decides to describe it. The next card is the origin of that challenge. Where did this come from? What is the origin of these challenges that Ophelia faces? And then next I want to know, what is the outcome? What is the trajectory of this character, her biggest challenge? Where is she headed to? The next card is about her internal and internal personality landscapes. So who is she on the outside? How do other characters in the story see her? And who is she on the inside? How does she see herself? What are the traits within herself? And then finally, I want to know, what are the big, influence or turning point within the film? 3 cards to summarize the plot of the film, and then the last card will be the overall ending or the main message or takeaway or lesson from the film Pan's Labyrinth. Whoops. All right, so I feel like I've shuffled these enough. Got a couple reversals in there as well. Let's see what we get. The origin of that challenge. We got the Hierophant. The ending of those challenges. What's the outcome? We've got Judgment. Very cool artwork. Finally, who is she on the outside? How do the other characters see her? We've got the Knight of Cups. Beautiful card for this character. Who is Ophelia internally? We got the Magician. Oh my gosh, I'm already getting excited about this reading. I mean, I haven't seen the film in many years, but I know the plot and everything. But yes, this reading is already just so fascinating to me. So, okay, we got the Magician for who she is on the inside. The next is big turning events. We got the 4 of Discs. Here, I'm running out of space here, but next, 3 cards to summarize the plot of the film. We got the Queen of Wands, the Nine of Wands, and the 6 of Wands. Interesting, all wands. That'll be really interesting to see. And then finally, the lesson, the core lesson and takeaway from the film. The Page of Cups. Absolutely beautiful. Okay. So next, as I'm watching the film, I'm going to be studying these cards and seeing how the meaning in the guidebook and these cards connect with the movie Pan's Labyrinth. So I just finished watching the film Pan's Labyrinth, and while I was watching the film, I was looking at the cards that I drew, I was reading the guidebook, and I was taking notes and just feeling what inspirations or thoughts came up with me as I was doing the deck study and watching the film. This is such a fun way to get to know a brand new deck without any of the pressure of feeling like you have to know how to do a reading. So if you're a beginner, I absolutely recommend this approach. So the first card that I got to represent Ophelia. She's the main character in the film, and I got the 8 of Discs. Now, if you look closely at the artwork here, you see 2 lions, and they're kind of at opposition of each other. And then there's a very innocent lamb in the middle. And when I was looking at the artwork, I thought of the lamb, and it instantly reminded me of Ophelia as a child. And that's really how I would summarize Ophelia in this movie. She is that innocent lamb caught between 2 worlds. We've got reality and her fantasy, caught between her mother and her father, caught between violence and peace, war and safety. And when I look at the artwork here, these 2 lions that are in opposition of each other, they're fierce, they're frightening, to be honest. And there's that beautiful lamb sitting in the middle, and that lamb, to me, as I was watching the movie, represented Ophelia. The biggest challenge I got for Ophelia in the movie is the 8 of Wands. Here we have another lion reference, but it's a lion and 2 serpents is what it looks like, and a sleeping child or a sleeping woman held in the lion's arms. So really interesting how much the lion imagery is used in this deck. Now, typically, the 8 of Wands refers to speed and urgency and quickness. But in the Mariel Tarot, she explains on this a little bit further, and she talks about the difference between divine urgency and earthly obstacles. She talks about how sometimes there are forces that move us and we resist them, and sometimes change happens quickly and divisively. When I see how the biggest obstacle in Ophelia's life throughout the film, and I looked at it through the lens of the 8 of Wands archetype, I see that Ophelia's challenge is that she's constantly being asked to move quickly and decisively in a world full of danger and cruelty. Even as she enters this magical world that's supposed to be her escape, it's not really an escape. There's instructions, there's deadlines, there's tasks that she has to complete before she runs out of time. And then the human world, things are moving so fast, and she's punished for that. She's forced to navigate her world without any rest. It's just constantly go, go, go. And she's never safe. There's no safety for her. There's one scene I think that really illustrated this for me, and that was when she must retrieve the key from this giant toad, and she still has to be home in time for dinner. And the tension is extreme. I mean, you're sitting there just like biting your fingernails for this child. So she succeeds, but her mother is furious. And when I look at the Eight of Wands, I feel like everything is moving so fast around Ophelia. The world is forcing her to grow up. She's got all these pressures from everybody. Speed, speed, speed. The world is just not slowing down for this child. She doesn't even have a chance at a childhood. She's kind of catapulted into the violence in the world that's around her, and nobody is waiting for her. No one is allowing her to move slowly. Everything is forcing her to grow up. Everyone's putting burdens and placements on her. It's just the speed and the gravitas of what she has to do, the burdens that she has to carry is overwhelming. And so that's how I interpreted the speed and the urgency and the pressure and the punishing, task that this child has to do is represented in the film by the Eight of Wands. Now, the origin of Ophelia's challenges, I got the Hierophant. And the Hierophant can often mean religious dogma or cultural pressures, cultural expectations, and this structure of authority and law and structure and rules. And that can often be, some of the negative sides of the Hierophant. Now, obviously, this is present in the film of Pan's Labyrinth. She's growing up in a fascist regime. She is in this authoritarian world. Her father is in the military. He has to follow all these rules, and he expects her to follow all these rules. This interesting journey that she goes on between that energy of the dogma in the fascist regime of her life and her inner spiritual truth. The outcome of Ophelia's challenges, Judgment, could not be a more perfect card to look through the lens of Pan's Labyrinth. Wow. So Judgment is all about rebirth, divine reckoning, release from the earthly to the eternal. And in the Mariel Tarot, the guidebook talks about this being a reunion of the spirit, a reunion to our source essence. And spoiler alerts, of course, and I've already warned you, but at the end of the movie, Ophelia dies. But does she die? Yes, Ophelia dies at the end of the movie, but her death is more poetic than just a literal death. She, in a way, her soul is reborn. She now becomes princess of the underworld. Is that more perfect explanation than Judgment? Come on. So her sacrifice, her challenges leads to transcendence. And it leads to this new rebirth that Ophelia makes at the end of the film. So beautiful, right? In the final scene of the movie, her blood opens a portal, and you see she is welcomed into this golden throne room. She has finally passed the test that she had to achieve, not by her obedience, but by her compassion. Judgment is all about personal evolution, expanding our consciousness, wanting to be reborn in ourselves, either literally or figuratively. It is that growth of evolution and maturity, the growth of the soul, the growth of the heart. And at the end of the film, that's exactly what happens to Ophelia. This is a perfect card to represent her character arc. How others see Ophelia, the card I got is the Knight of Cups. Now, this is typically someone who is romantic, they're impressionable, they're passionate. So again, to have this card really resonates with me in terms of Ophelia. She is a rich, imaginative, dreamy child. She just has a deep imagination. She feels deeply. That's absolutely the Knight of Cups. How Ophelia sees herself, we got the Magician. I got really excited when I pulled this card because yes, she creates Pan's Labyrinth. She creates the world that she needs to escape in. She might not have control in fascist Spain, in this horrible reality. As a child, she can't escape the prison that she's in. So she creates the world that she needs. That is the archetype of the magician. Like, I'm not settling for the oppression that's been put upon me. I will create my own world. I will create my escape. And in many ways, Ophelia sees herself not as this helpless, poor, whimpering, lost little lamb, but as someone who has power. She has dreams, she has goals, she has the ability to navigate and achieve things. Now, the turning point in the film, I got the Four of Discs. The Four of Discs represents something that is the consolidation of power. This card is about protection, protecting something, boundaries. You see here the artist has illustrated that by a fortress on a very steep mountain. This is something that's protected, something safe. And in the film, the turning point that Ophelia faces is when she steals her baby brother. The plot or the summary of the film, I got the Queen of Wands, which to me represents that fierce feminine power, the passionate protector. Ophelia is often that passionate, energetic woman. She is that divine feminine, fearless, magical, protective. That's how I see the Queen of Wands in this card. The next is the Nine of Wands, and this is an image of the wounded warrior who still stands. And we see a fierce tiger with a woman who is strong. This is about perseverance, resilience, and suffering for a cause. Absolutely what Ophelia experiences in her endurance as she pushes forward, regardless of all the obstacles and challenges that she faces. And then finally, Six of Wands, another wand card to explain this. This is about victory, recognition, her soul shining even through the face of adversity. This is really about the triumph of the true self. And we see that at the end of the film, she triumphs through her challenges, through the oppression that she's lived with. Even though she is that wounded warrior, she still has that perseverance, that determination, all stems from her Queen of Wands, that passion, that spark, that inner magician to create the world that she wants for herself. And the final card, the main takeaway from Pan's Labyrinth, I got the Page of Cups. And this is so beautiful because, again, it's delicate, it's gentle. The Page of Cups is about opening our hearts and that just beginner's heart that leads to transcendence. And I feel like that's the main message of the movie, is that we must always choose love over blind authority, and that we always have a chance to grow and create our own world. We don't have to just live in the world that's been pressed upon us, but each of us has the ability within ourselves to create a new life and to lead by compassion and ultimately transcend the world around us into a new one. I hope you guys enjoyed my analysis of Pan's Labyrinth through the lens of the Mariel Tarot. And if you guys did a movie or if you're currently learning the Mariel Tarot with me, I'd love to hear your thoughts below. And till next time, everyone, take care.